In an interview with CBS News, Volodymyr Zelensky noted that the Ukrainian armed forces managed to hold back the Russians during the winter months and stabilize the situation. However, Ukraine is not prepared for defense against another major offensive that Russia may launch at the end of May or in June. The president met with journalists in the Sumy region, whose border territories suffer from Russian shelling. Zelensky emphasized that if Ukraine doesn't hold out, the next target will be Kazakhstan, followed by the Baltic countries, Poland and Germany, at least half of Germany. Therefore, Zelensky calls on Western partners to provide Ukraine with more Patriot missile systems and artillery. Let's be honest, the money allocated by Congress, the administration, in most cases 80% of these funds, well, at least more than 75%, remain in USA. This munition come to us, but production takes place there, and the money stays in the USA, and the taxes stay in the USA, he noted. Additionally, Zelensky said that the war in Gaza has reduced attention to the war in Ukraine, which Putin actively exploits. However, this is not the only tool of the dictator. Also, according to him, Putin uses the terrorist attack in Crocus Hall in an attempt to unite his society and justify that Ukraine does not exist. Hey, my name is Alex, and this is a quick update on the Russian-Ukrainian war from the perspective of someone living within it. It is notable that the president chose the northern part of the country for the interview, drawing attention to the northern region, where Russians practically with impunity destroy everything they can reach, dropping aviation bombs. Here is a description of the situation from this same area from a Ukrainian armed forces serviceman. Yesterday there was hell with aerial bombs. Around 24 of them exploded, plus 3 that didn't detonate. And all of this was in an area approximately 30 kilometers long. Here they mainly target the contact line where there are hardly any people left. They are just clearing trenches and minefields. These bombs level all fortifications to the ground and clean up minefields. The only positive thing is that these damages are quickly repaired, very quickly, as for border area. Here is how, for example, the construction of such engineering fortification structures is taking place in the neighboring region, in the Tomir region. Minefields, interconnected networks of trenches, anti-tank ditches, strong points, dragon's teeth and much more. All of this is present in process of building defense. Ukraine now needs to dig and pour everything with concrete. This is demanded by the time and the actual state of affairs in order to save the lives of soldiers and inflict as much damage as possible on the enemy. But the Russians do not limit themselves to just the northern part of the country. They also attack other regions, deeper into Ukraine. Often unable to reach this area with aviation bombs, they use missiles and drones instead. For instance, last night the Russians attacked Zaporizhia and Kharkiv and Nikopol. Kharkiv. As a result of drone attacks, civilian infrastructure objects were damaged. A restaurant, shop, office premises, windows were shattered in neighboring residential buildings. Here is how the evening sounded in Kharkiv. As a result of downed shot, drone fell onto the road while another destroyed a restaurant. A guy inquired of Passaby in Kharkiv what they thought about all this. Here is a response from one woman. I am not leaving Kharkiv, and I am experiencing the second war in my lifetime. Hitler took away my childhood, Putin is taking away my old age. Zaporizhia. Debris from enemy drones hit the private sector, damaging dozens of residential houses. 2 elderly women were wounded. Nikopol region. Since evening, the Russians have shelled Nikopol region 4 times with heavy artillery and attacked with kamikaze drone. The strikes targeted Pokrovsky, Marhantsevsky community and Nikopol itself, and hotel, private houses and farm buildings were damaged. A power transformation line was also hit. According to information from air defense forces, the Russian launched 3 X-22 cruise missile, anti-radiolocation X-31 missile and S-300 surface-to-air missile as well as 28 Shad-type drones. 26 out of 28 drones were destroyed. Meanwhile, Russian propagandists are once again resorting to nuclear weapons intimidation. They do this regularly, so why bother commenting on it? Let's just drop a damn tactical nuclear charge already. Among another things, they were discussing wiping Kharkiv off the face of the earth, and that's starting with Kyiv. Overall, nothing new. Also, the consequences of the recent mass rocket attack several days ago continue to unfold. Today it's become known that the Burshtyn and Ladizhin thermal power plant, among the largest in Ukraine, have been seriously damaged and put out of operation. It is estimated that their restoration will take from 6 months to several years. And regarding the situation on the front lines, on the Liman direction, a high pace of combat operations persists east of Ternove and in the Serebransk forest. Chasiv Yar direction, east of Listviny forest, active combat operations continue along the railway. Russian forces are attempting to consolidate and establish new positions. Ukrainian armed forces have inflicted fire damage on the enemy in this area. Heavy fighting is ongoing in the central part of Ivanivka. On the Avdiivka direction, Russian forces continue assault operations west of Tonenki and in Berdychi. In the latter, the enemy is attacking in the direction of Central Street. In Novomikhailivka, Russian forces are pressing along the Tymyraziva and Central Street in the western direction. The enemy has advanced to a depth of up to 380 meters. Ukrainian armed forces have inflicted fire damage on the enemy at points. The situation is relatively calm on the remaining sectors, with no significant clashes observed. Now let's quickly go through the notable events captured on video. So, the soldiers of the 14th Separate Mechanized Brigade are conducting warming-up exercises near Vishnya to ensure that the Russians doesn't freeze during the chilly Ukrainian March evenings. The situation in Bilogorivka is on the photo from a soldier of the Ukrainian armed forces. Yes, these are the same catacombs that stretch from the industrial zone right to the village itself, where battles often occur. It is not uncommon for our soldiers to be in tunnels, while the Russians are already above them. Russian soldiers constantly work with aviation bombs from the surface to punch a hole through the tunnels and repeat the pipe passage as in Avdiivka. It is like the First World War down there. Crawling through those tunnels is not exactly a pleasure. Soldiers share his impressions. Meanwhile, the Russians continue to deploy their scrap metal such as T-62B tanks towards the Zaporizhzhia direction. This old scrap metal is often supported by the scouts along the entire front line here, from Enerhodar to Verbivka, but it has not yet been used in combat. Perhaps they are going to use it for fire support with indirect trajectory fire. However, this does not surpass the incident last August when those clowns in Vasilievka buried 15 T-34 tanks they bought in 2019 from Angola for a parade at military training grounds. Also, Madar, the commander of the UAV platoon, demonstrated an airstrike with AASM bombs on Russian UAV command post and personnel base in Kherson region. The hit was made with the French missile AASM. The guys working with this type of weapon say that it's a very good bomb rocket, even better than JDAM-ER. The topic of the drones on the front line remains one of the main ones. Drones are operational in all directions and in all weather conditions. For example, here is how a Russian tank looks after a night visit from the Ukrainian Baba Yaga, a large octocopter drone. And to dispel any illusion that this is just a one-side game, here is an example of Russians shooting down our armored vehicle M1117 ASV Guardian. The Biden administration previously approved the transfer of 250 such vehicles. Another loss of the Ukrainian Defense Forces, namely the BMP-1 TS with the combat module SPIS, has been recorded. Since drones are quite expensive items, often even if drone is lost, efforts are made to salvage it if it's not destroyed, or to reduce the cost of such a drone. Here an example of such a low-cost drone called Gordona, which is assembled from readily available materials. Despite being made from cheap materials, it can fly for hundreds of kilometers. Meanwhile, Russia's Minister of Attack Shoigu awarded general who sent thousands of Russians of mid-storming mission in Avdiivka. General Andrei Mordvichov, the commander of the Central Group of Forces in the war in Ukraine, received the Golden Star Medal for capture of Avdiivka. However, as for the Russian soldier who took part in one of these assaults, this guy doesn't share the joy of his commanders. In general, during the execution of combat tasks, our guys, including Alexei, our armored group, first stumbled upon a minefield. Naturally, the equipment was damaged, and then, so to speak, the guys were finished off by the drones. The event were quite tough. Not all the guys survived. Alexei was wounded, but now he is back in action and in the rear zone. In general, they pulled out all the guys from the battlefield. Naturally, they ran out of this as best as they could. All the equipment burned up. To give you an idea of how serious it all was, even the rifles that were left in the vehicles were damaged to the extent where they cannot be repaired, as well as the bulletproof vests. Meanwhile, over the Sevastopol, the Russians shot down their own aircraft, either a Su-35 or, according to other sources, a Su-27. The governor of Sevastopol, Razvozhaev, confirmed that the military aircraft crashed into the sea. Additionally, pro-Russian social media platforms claim that the fighter jet was hit by friendly fire from the Russian air defense systems. However, there is no official confirmation of this information. But how could it be? Putin literally stated recently, "Our air defense systems, by definition, cannot strike our own aircraft. They are equipped with friend-of-foe systems." A person returned after 2 years of absence in Mariupol. "During my 2 years absence, changes have occurred, and not for the better." While on YouTube, it seems to be that everything was beautiful and fully restored, but in reality it is not the case. Among other things, he passed by the sadly famous Mariupol drama theater and notes that it has become a cemetery for people and is now being rebuilt on the bones of the dead. He concludes, "I am certainly glad to be back in Mariupol, but what I have seen here doesn't make me happy at all." And that wraps up today's video. If you found this information helpful or insightful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.